Sean Fairchild for Bass Gear Magazine. Today we're going to be looking at the ME-90B Multi-EFX processor from BOSS. Let's do it! All right, let's start by talking about what the ME-90B is. It's a lot of things. It's a multi-EFX processor. Multi-EFX. Audio interface.
Audio interface.
It is a phrase sampler. It is a bunch of different things. And one of the coolest things about it, when I look down, by the way, the BOSS is on the floor. So I have a second camera here that's looking at the BOSS, and that's what you're seeing. As you can see, it's pretty small. And one of the cool things about it is that it can be battery powered. I mean, when was the last time you took your battery-powered audio interface that's also a multi-EFX unit and your laptop and an instrument out to the beach and recorded something? Right? Obviously, you can see I'm not doing a lot of beach stuff myself, but you know, maybe you're luckier than me in the fair skin department. Now, among the ME-90B's offerings are more than 60 different effects, more than 10 different amp and preamp models, all kinds of stuff. There's a phrase sampler. I think it does 38 seconds of recording. One of the cool things about it actually is that the A to D conversion is 24-bit, which you might come to expect. But internally, audio is processed through a 32-bit floating point internal architecture. So very, very high quality sounds. You're not getting any digital artifacts that I could perceive with this unit. So that's very cool to see. All right, I've got the unit on the floor with my second cam looking down at it, so I'm going to point out features with my shoes. I hope that's not too weird. So, up here, we have the preamp section. So there's a dedicated preamp section, which is very cool. You have a bunch of different controls over what type of preamp model and then various different attributes of the preamp or amp. Now moving over to the right, we have the mod section, which again gives you various different attributes for different kinds of modulation effects, rate and time, depth, all that sort of thing. All the controls you would typically, expect to have for modulation. Coming down to the bottom row, left side of items we have on the front panel, we have the Comp FX1 block. And as you can see there, lots of different variations, lots of different effect algorithms. That's where you're gonna find things like the octaver, limiter, different compressor models, polyoctave, pitch shift, all that kinds of stuff. That's in compressor and effects 1 block. Over to the right of that, we have the filter EQ block. So that's where we have a bunch of cool, envelope filter effects and different types of things like phasers and harmonists, ring modulator. I love ring modulator. I use that all the time. Moving over again, we have the drive and synth block. And that's where we get all of the distortions and the generated tones that the ME-90B produces. Okay, moving over one last time, we have the delay and reverb block all the way over to the right there. And that's pretty self-explanatory. Below that, we have 8 different multi-function foot switches, plus, and this is my favorite part, a built-in expression pedal. You can't go wrong with a built-in expression pedal, right? You always kind of need one and it's separate. Sometimes you forget to bring it. You don't want to buy an extra thing. So cool to have it on board. Pedals 1 through 4 down here on the bottom select the memory that you're using if you are in memory mode. Memory mode is what BOSS calls its patch system. So anytime you've created something multi-dimensional that uses various kinds of different effects, various kinds of sounds, maybe different EQ and preamps, you can save that as a memory. It's very much akin to a preset on a typical floor processor. But if I press this memory button there, now we are in manual mode, and you can use the pedal more typically as a series of individual stomp boxes, which is honestly how I tend to use all of these things. I like to have control over individual effects, and I don't like to use a lot of different presets. I use a couple presets that cover everything I need. So in this mode, you can see that the LED for drive and synth is lit up, comp is lit up, bank is lit. Well, it looks like bank is lit up, but in this mode, what we have are all of the features here that are that have a white background, that kind of have a block white background. This is their secondary function. So now pedals 1, 2, 3, and 4 are going to control comp, filter, drive, synth, and delay and reverb. And then on the top row, we're going to turn on and off the amp or EQ model, the mod effect if there is any. we have control over the blend. Now this is really cool. So if I hit this, I can control the wet and dry blend between my input signal and the effect output with the expression pedal. It's a great idea. There's a blend pot right up there. You might see its LED is lit up. And you can actually control the amount of blend on that knob with that pot. But to do it without having to bend down in the middle of a song, you can use the rocker pedal. I think that's a great idea. And of course, hitting the memory pedal one more time puts us back into memory mode, and then we can see the memory labeling up there. So this is user 1, the user preset 1. As with many of Boss's products, you have access to a really, really great PC editor called Tone Studio. And there actually appears to be separate versions of Tone Studio for different products. So there is a specific Tone Studio for ME-90B that you can download for free, of course, to your computer. A very cool thing that you have the option to do, and unfortunately I wasn't able to test it, but there is an optional Bluetooth dongle that can plug into the back panel of the pedal, and it allows you to use Tone Studio via an app on your phone. I think that would have been a really cool thing to be able to test out, but I can't comment on that. To access Tone Studio on your computer, you plug in the device to your computer with a USB-C cable. It makes this function as a very, very usable low latency audio interface. It's great. I alluded to this before, but the unit can be battery powered. In fact, it will be battery powered unless you already own the suggested BOSS power supply or you order that separately, because it doesn't come with one. It does, however, come with 4 AA batteries, which have lasted about 6 hours of use in my experience so far. I'm on my second set right now. And that turns this into a pretty viable portable option for studios. Very cool thing. It's pretty diminutive, as you can see, via the comparison with the size of my foot wearing a US size 10 sneaker. So it's not exceptionally large, which makes it very portable, very easy to take with you for remote work. I've covered some of the sounds that I really enjoy in the full written review of this unit, but just to name a few, man, I love Boss's phasers. Boss phaser sounds are, I just love them. There was a PH3. The PH3 is that green phaser box. I shouldn't say was, still exists, still is manufactured as far as I'm aware. It had a step phaser control on it, or step phaser mode, that I loved. In fact, was the genesis of a song that I produced and put out. It's one of my favorite ones. It all came from just the sound of that phaser. Unfortunately, the step phaser model is not included here, but the BOSS phaser models here are just as glassy and beautiful as they ever were. So I really appreciate those. One of the standout surprise effects that was new to me, at least from the BOSS ecosphere, and I hadn't used before, is just called overtone. Overtone is killer. I'm going to play it for you in one of these samples, but you get an octave below that's modulated. It's kind of sine wavy, and you get an octave above the note you're playing, which is also modulated, and they don't sound, the timbre is different from your from playing a string. It doesn't really sound like a string, and it's not supposed to, so it's not just another version of pitch shifter or harmonist, and what it really nails is a cool organ sound. And it seems to do it entirely polyphonically and without any latency. So that was kind of a standout hit for me. I didn't expect that. The drives I really liked. I mean, I am a fan of things that a lot of people at least pretend not to like, or they kind of like regurgitate back things that they hear other people say, like, oh, the metal zone, that's the worst Boss distortion. I love the metal zone. I mean, you get a 3-band EQ, you know, with a sweepable mid for bass players. That's excellent. That sound is in here. Several Boss drives are in here that are well known, including a really nice boost effect that's just sort of like a tube preamp volume booster. However, one thing I would like to note, if the people at Boss are listening, is that it would be really great to have some mid-range control built into all of these models. They all give you a very basic tone control, but the ability, especially for bass players, to sculpt mid-range, like you could on that metal zone, that's a pretty useful thing that can really change the entire envelope of a distorted sound for bass. On the delay and reverb side of things, I really appreciated the analog delay, which had a very nice sort of tape delay effect to it that kind of gets more mid-rangey as time goes on. Plate reverb is pretty much my favorite style of reverb. The plate reverb here is great. I also really like shimmer reverb. The shimmer reverb is good on the ME-90B, but perhaps not excellent. It's not as multi-dimensional as you might expect if you've used something like, you know, a Strymon Blue Sky or something like that. That's a much more immersive, much more three-dimensional style of shimmer reverb, but the one that's included here is nothing to thumb your nose at. And it's great if you don't have those other pedals or you don't want to take them with you. You just want to have everything in one unit. I can't imagine somebody at any level of their playing career not finding a ton of value in the ME-90B. I mean, it's a pretty solid value at just under $400 street price. It is maybe twice the price of a lower end boutique pedal, maybe twice the price of you know, kind of like a nice single effect pedal, and way, way under what a flagship floor processor is. Yet it offers maybe 75 or 80% of the functionality of a flagship processor. It's a pretty easy pedal to recommend. My honest take on it is it's a great value, and if you are somebody looking for any of these features, you're not going to be disappointed. The price point's really good. I say go for it. Well, thank you guys again so much for joining me. My name is Sean Fairchild. Make sure to like and subscribe. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the ding notification button. I just say ding, and sometimes like I put something up there, and a lot of times I don't. This time I'm not going to do it just to make myself look weird afterwards. That'll be fun. Leave a comment about that. Anyways, make sure to hit the notification button so that as we produce more of these, as we publish them, you are the first to know. All right, thank you guys again. I'll see you on the next one.